What's going on, you guys? Welcome on back to the channel. Now, as we know, Two Blue Vortex just dropped the much anticipated Chapter 17, and I'm gonna be honest, this is without question the worst chapter of Two Blue Vortex that they have put out. But there are still some great moments that ultimately kind of saved the chapter for me. But if it wasn't for those moments, this is hands down the worst chapter that they put out. Now, why do I think this is the worst chapter of Two Blue Vortex? Well, it all just comes down to the fact that there is egregious recap and just like characters talking about things that we already know about. Perfect example, right at the beginning of the chapter, we have essentially a three-page recap of Sumire talking about like her love for Boruto and considering Boruto's feelings and all that. Like it's a three-page recap of that conversation, but it's just framed as Sarada thinking about it. But the problem is that was already near the end of the last chapter. It's already fresh in our minds. We didn't forget. We didn't forget about it. So the fact that we waste 3 pages of a new chapter that we only get once a month on stuff that we already know about, that it's framed the exact same way. It's just Sarada thinking about Sumire talking about it. I thought that was stupid. I thought that was such a bad choice to do. Like, you start off the chapter with recap of something that like was already near the tail end of the last chapter. I didn't understand that. I thought that was so dumb because it's like we already know about that. I guess like it frames like some stuff that happens later on in the chapter, but dog, I thought that was pointless. I didn't think that needed to be in the chapter. Like, no, we could have done without that. What else did I not like? There's a lot that I didn't like about this chapter. What I don't like is that we spend so much time with Shikamaru and Konohamaru in the same room talking about how the the Shinju like can feel different emotions and that like they're not all the same. They don't all have like a killer instinct. You can manipulate them, you can kind of like get them to your way of thinking and get and betray them if you get them to trust you with stuff like that. Like for example, like Konohamaru is going to be romancing Mitsuri, so that way because Moegi loves him, so he can exploit that, and that's how he'll be able to kill her. That's all well and good, but I feel like we already knew that to some extent. Like they went through all this to kind of talk about it. They spent like over half the chapter like talking about how you can exploit them, like go like they're not fully developed yet and all that, but it's like we already knew that to some sort of extent. Like we knew that all the Shinjus are not like Jura who just want to kill and just want to like eat people. We already knew that. We knew that they had other like goals and other ways of thinking. Like this isn't something that was essentially new to the story. Like we kind of knew it in some way, shape, or form. Like without them having to outright tell us. So the fact that they waste again so many pages on just stuff that I find that we already knew about, it was unnecessary. It was unnecessary dialogue. But I get it. Some people didn't know that, and that's valid. A lot of people didn't know about how the Shinjus were working and stuff like that, which is valid. I understand that. But in my opinion, it wasn't necessary in the story, in the grand scheme of things of the chapter. It wasn't really necessary. It kind of felt like it dragged. It really felt like it was dragging. And I was just like, can we move on? Like I already know. I feel like I already know this stuff is how I was feeling. But I do like though that Konohamaru is essentially going to be manipulating Matsuri in a way. Cause like Konohamaru in the story has been nothing more than a punching bag. Like he's been utilized as something to just get he's been utilized as a jobber essentially the whole series. So honestly, I think it's kind of cool that he's going to be doing something like this, where he's going to be manipulating Mitsuri, getting her to trust him, and then he's going to kill her. I think that's actually pretty cool. Or maybe he doesn't even kill her. I don't know. But personally, I think this is like the best thing that's ever happened to Konohamaru as a character in like years. So Konohamaru getting shit like this, I like. I think it's cool. That's a plus in the chapter in my eyes. Konohamaru actually gets to do something in the story. What else? There's I think that's pretty much it that I didn't really like about the chapter. Like it's mostly just like recap and like talking about things that we the audience already know about in the story, like in one way or another, whether it's from like videos such as this or it's like you inferenced it from the story. We already knew it. So I felt it feels like, at least to me, it felt like there wasn't a need for it, but hey, we got it. It has to get explained at some point, so I understand that. But I don't know, it just didn't feel necessary. But the stuff that I really liked in the chapter and the stuff that saves it comes at the end. The final few pages of the chapter are what saves it. So we have Boruto and Kashin Koji basically in a room together, and Boruto wants to go to the sand and help Sarada, Mitsuki, and Konohamaru. But Kashin Koji's like, listen, you cannot go there. Otherwise, this is one of the two scenarios where Jura will activate himself and go kill you. So you have to stay here. And when Boruto asks, like, what's the number? Like, what's the percentage chance that somebody is going to die? Kashin Koji doesn't give him a straight answer. So I like that sense of tension where it's like, will Boruto defy Kashin Koji, defy fate, and try to go save everyone? Or is he going to let everything play out? I think that's really cool. I liked that. That's a nice little sense of like tension for the chapter. Like showing that Boruto and Kashin Koji somewhat have friction towards each other, because I always thought that Boruto and Kashin Koji were like boys now. But no, they're not really boys. Like it's just like a working relationship. Boruto, I don't think sees I always thought Boruto was gonna see him as like a second Sasuke. He doesn't see him like that. He sees him essentially as a working business relationship, which I think is cool. Like it shows that he's not the same. He's not like Jiraiya, in essentially, it's not like the Naruto Jiraiya relationship. This is a completely separate relationship, and I like that. It shows that Boruto doesn't. It seems like Boruto still doesn't fully trust him, which I like. It shows that there's a little bit of tension between the two of them, which is something that I feel like this dichotomy of a relationship needs. But now, the last thing in the chapter that happens is we see Amato by himself, and then Kawaki attacks him and essentially tells him to remove his limiters. This is similar to like the Code situation again, where like Code was getting bodied left and right, front and center, and then he's finally able to get his hands on Amato, and that's when he's able to remove the limiters. This, like, it's kind of crazy how Kawaki is essentially Code, where Kawaki's had limiters placed on him and all he wants is to remove them, so he has to go through Amado again. And like this just shows how important Amado is in the story. Like only this time will he remove the limiters or will he keep them on? Will he find a way to like keep the limiters on Kawaki? I think that could be very interesting. Like, does he actually like go forward with removing the limiters? Because like with Code, I feel like he could tell that Code wasn't going to be much of a threat with the limiters off, because like I think because like Code gets the limiters off and he does jack shit. But like I think with Kawaki, he knows if the limiters come off, that's it. Like his plan to get his daughter revived is gone. So if he removes the limiters off of Kawaki, it creates a whole new set of problems for him. So I think he's going to try to find a way to keep the limiters on Kawaki. But that is like that those are like the two main things that save the chapter for me and set up the next chapter to I think be way better than this one. Now with this chapter though, I feel like it will serve a lot better on a binge rather than like a month to month experience. I think my issues with the chapter come with the fact that I'm a month to month reader. So the fact that I'm a month to month reader, it kind of hampers my experience with the chapter. But if I was a binge reader, I think I would like this chapter a lot more because it would go right into the next chapter. But I think that's going to do it for me. I think that's going to do it for me for this chapter. Overall, not my favorite chapter of Two Blue Vortex, quite possibly the worst chapter in Two Blue Vortex, saved only by the stuff at the end. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think I'm completely wrong in this line of thinking? Or do you think this is actually a really good chapter and there's something that I'm not seeing? Or do you guys also think that this chapter is pretty bad? Let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, I'm going to talk to you guys next time. Bye.